Hey everybody, this is going to be a video without video. This is going to be an audio. This is going to be a few minutes of audio on vegan diet and PSA blood test, prostate cancer, PSA blood test, and vegan diet. So you're not going to see anything popping up on the screen. It's strictly going to be audio. I'm just going to leave one little thing up on the screen for you to, so you don't have to look at anything. It's all audio. So let me tell you what's going on. 6 months ago, a little more than 6 months ago, doctor did a PSA test and said, I don't like the number, it's a little elevated compared to usual. And for those of you that don't know what a PSA test is, I don't know why you're watching this video, but PSA is it's a prostate exam, blood test, and they look at the numbers and they track the numbers over a while and they figure out where you're at and where you should be and if they like the numbers or not. So, had the physical and they do the PSA test and they said numbers elevated, we don't like it. And I said, retest me, which they did. They retested me about a week later. And during that week, I did some research. So this video is going to be a little long, but if you're dealing with any of this stuff, it might help you a little bit. So listen to it. It's beneficial. The people that are just going to shut this off after 2 minutes, you're missing a lot of beneficial information. So they said, come back in a week, and I went on the internet right away, panicking, like what's going on? Why is this number elevated? And it's a normal thing. When you're doing blood tests, you end up with false negatives, false positives all the time, as we're finding out with the COVID-19 thing. Sometimes it shows you've got a problem when you don't. Other times it doesn't show you have a problem when you really do. So I did some research on PSA levels, and what I found out is they can vary. They vary by age, they vary by diet, and they also vary. Not a lot of people know this unless you do some research, but if you have had a gasm in the last 2 days or something, or 3 days, what happens when you have that is when the stuff comes out, it releases some of that, the chemical from the PSA, it releases that into your bloodstream. And so if you've had one of those things, well, let's just call it a G. We'll call it a G from now on in the video. So if you've had a G before, within the last day or two of having your test, then your number is probably going to be way elevated when you go in there to have that test, when you have the blood test. And they don't tell you that beforehand. They don't tell you to not have the big G. And so if you go in there and you have the test, your numbers is going to be way up. But if you know about that and you're expecting that things are going to be normal and you don't have that G, then your number could be in a safe zone. So that's something to know, something to be aware of before you go in for the test. Avoid the spanky, and maybe your number will be in a safe zone. So I go in there for the second test, and the number is okay. They're happy where it's at. And that's the end of that. And then I go over, then I get an email saying, no, we're not happy with it because the number went up and we don't like it. And you need to go in and see a urologist, so because that's the next standard procedure, is they want you to see a urologist. So I go over and I see the urologist, and I wasn't too thrilled being over there. Nobody is going to be thrilled being over there. And so what he does is he does a little bit of talking, and then the thing that none of us like, you kind of lean against the bed and a little zippity zoo zay probe for about 1 second, and that's the prostate exam to make sure that it's not mushy or that it's not hard as a rock, because if it is, then you probably have some problems. Maybe not, but you probably have some problems. And then when you read the paperwork later on, not only do they do that, but you'd have no idea this happened. They actually examine the poll. They examine the poll and they notate if you have had a removal of something when you were born or not, or a child or not. So they list that on there, and they list the other descriptive pieces of information that you say, like, when did they even notice that? So then we talked about what's going on, and he said, okay, I don't like the number, and I want to do a biopsy. And I had done my research before I went in there, and I said, you're not going to do a biopsy. Why don't you want to have a biopsy? Okay, so what a biopsy is with this is they stick a needle up the backside, and they put it into the prostate, and they take a specimen, and they do that in 4 areas. Now, the thing is that, I don't know how big the prostate is, I think it's like the size of a walnut, but if they hit 4 areas that don't have any cancer, and you've got cancer, then you show up with a negative result and everything's good, and it might not be good. And if they hit 1 area that is bad, then they're going to find something that's bad, which is, I guess, a good thing. But the other problem is when they're sticking this needle in there, it's also going through a kind of a non-hygienic canal, and that needle could have some bacteria on it as it enters you, and that could cause an infection, a prostate infection, a urinary infection, a blood infection. It could cause some major problems. Now, they list that on the paperwork that it's a very minimal thing, but it could happen. The other thing about this test is normally you go into the doctor's office and you lay down on that table that I was talking about, and they put that needle up there and they do the 4 things, and then you walk out. In my case, I'm a nervous wreck when I have a cold. I panic when I have to see a doctor for anything. My blood pressure skyrockets when I walk into a medical building. So right away he said, what I'm going to tell you is, I understand you can't deal with this, and I will make arrangements so that you can have an operating room. We'll go in there, we'll give you a twilight thing, kind of knock you out a little bit. We'll do the procedure in a minute, and you'll recover, and you go out of there. The problem is that you might have that infection, you might have a lot of pain, you might be, you could have a lot of problems, or you could have no problems. And I said, I'm not doing the biopsy. We're not going to do the biopsy. Okay, I'm at 8 minutes right now. I don't want this video to go too long, but the video is going to go too long. If, again, this is going to help you, or it's not going to help you. If you already shut it off, then you won't know. Okay, so I said I'm not going to do the, let me do the, sorry, resetting the timer for 8 minutes. We're going to start. We'll reset the timer. Start. Okay. So I said I'm not going to do it. And he said, okay, well, the number's not that bad. He says, things start to change now. The number's not so elevated that you are in danger. And he said, I think that I can wait 6 months, and then we'll do a test again, and we'll do the test in 6 months, and we'll see where it's at. We'll see what's going on. So first we went from you're going in for a biopsy to, okay, you're not going in for a biopsy. We're going to see where it's going to go. And I said, is there anything I can do to help myself with this? Is there anything at all? Normally, if you have cancer, you're in trouble. No matter what you do, you're not going to get rid of cancer. I said, is there anything I can do to help my situation? He said, yeah, change your diet. I said, what? He said, change your diet. And I said, what is that? And he said, go to a plant-based diet. Go to plant-based. And so for those of you that don't know, plant-based means pretty much plant-based. It means, well, obviously. A vegan diet means you don't eat meat, cheese, eggs, or dairy, or fish. A vegetarian diet, I think you can eat eggs and fish. A plant-based diet means that you mostly eat plant-based, but you can eat meat, eggs, cheese, and fish, and dairy, but minimal. You should avoid it. So I did some research. I posted a video on this if you want to check out my channel. And the thing that I found out is the American diet is an absolute nightmare. We've been told for years, eat meat, it's healthy for you, you get your protein, eat eggs, they're the healthiest thing around, they're great for you. Eat fish, it's really good for you. And what I found out is that fish can have a lot of mercury. Fish is an animal product, not really the best thing. Eating meat is definitely not good for the heart, it's not good for the arteries, it's not good for the body. And that's why a lot of people in the U.S. die of heart attacks and strokes. And we have very high cholesterol levels and we have very high blood sugar levels because of our diet. So all you keto people out there, don't even leave a comment. I'll just block you. I don't want to hear anything from the keto people. Okay, so as far as eggs, when you do some research, you find out that if a person goes in and has a test and they have prostate cancer, if they have it, if they are diagnosed with prostate cancer, if they eat eggs 3 times a week, they will most likely die from prostate cancer. That's what eggs do to the body, to the male body. If you have prostate cancer and you're consuming eggs 3 times a week, 3 servings of eggs, you'll probably die because the eggs elevate whatever's going on in there. Now, I'm not a doctor. I've done a lot of research. Don't take my word for it. Go online, do some research, do some... I spent weeks and weeks and weeks. So I'm not an internet doctor. I did a lot of research. Eggs, not good for you. Meat, not good for you. Dairy, same thing, not good for you. Cheese, not good for you. Sugar, obviously, not good for you. Salt, not good for you. So, you know, the thing is, what do you do? What do you do at that point? I did so much research, I said, this doctor, I was so angry with the doctor. I walked out of there, I was really ticked off. I said, I don't eat plant-based. And he said, well, you got a lot of problems you're going to have to deal with when you go home. And I thought, what a jerk, dumping that on me. You got a lot of problems you have to deal with. Well, I had a lot of problems. I went home and I did a lot of research. And after a very short amount of time, it wasn't a long time at all, I opened up the freezer and I threw out about $75 worth of meat, chicken, pork loins, threw out all my cheese, threw out all the dairy, all of it, just gone. Almost overnight, just gone. Went into the store the next day and I said, I'm supposed to eat plant-based. What the heck do I buy? I don't know what plant-based is. I don't eat vegetables. I don't eat broccoli. I don't eat spinach. I eat a broccoli or spinach raw with the Blend-Tec or the Vitamix in a smoothie, or with dressing. But I don't eat that stuff cooked. It reeks. It stinks. Who in the world in their right mind eats vegetables that are cooked? So here I was in a store saying, what do I eat? And I started living on Amy's vegan frozen foods. And over time I went from the Amy's to I found some other stuff. I can't remember the other names. There are meatless patties, meatless sausages. You got to be really careful. There are vegan ice creams. Vegan ice cream, all that means instead of regular milk, they're using coconut milk, almond milk. You still have the sugar, you still have the salt, you got a lot of sugar, you got a lot of calories, but you just don't have the dairy. So the good thing is you're getting rid of the dairy, but if you think you're going to live on ice cream and vegan ice cream and pizza, you're going to be fat as can be, and you're not going to accomplish anything. And that's the other thing. You also have to have your weight under control. Besides the diet, you got to have that. I called up my doctor. Let me just say this. I called up my doctor and I said, look, am I going to die? I was a nervous wreck. She says, you're not going to die. I said, am I going to die? These numbers, he scared me. The biopsy, I don't want to do it. She says, this is not a fair test for you. You are probably going to be fine. And for you, this is an unfair test because you're going to spend the next 6 months being miserable thinking that something's wrong. And it probably isn't. Unless you want to get that biopsy to verify it right now, you're probably going to be fine. But healthy heart, healthy prostate. Healthy heart, healthy prostate. Eat a healthy diet, your numbers for your prostate exam should go way down. Besides that, having that G right before you go in for that test, healthy heart, healthy prostate. So overnight, I decided I don't want to deal with dying. I don't want to deal with hospitals. Who knows what's going to happen? And I thought, this is a do or die thing. There are so many people that go in have a heart attack, the doctor tells them change your diet. What do? They don't change their diet, and a couple years later they die of a heart attack. They don't lose the weight, they don't do what they should do. So here, I changed my diet overnight. I will say, before that, I was riding my bike all the time. I was doing a lot of exercise. I cut all of that out. A good idea and a bad idea. The doctor had told me exercise will also help the blood clear out, lower the numbers. You want to do the exercise. I didn't do the exercise. My thought was, I need to make sure that I can control the diet. I can control what I'm eating. I can get my numbers down. If I can do that and get my numbers down and I'm okay, then when I add on the exercise, because when you add on exercise, you burn more calories, you eat more food, you put on more weight, and it's kind of like a vicious cycle. So I wanted to be sure I could do this strictly with the diet. So I know the video's long, 16 minutes. Sorry, we're going to reset the timer again in a second and go for another 8 minutes. And nobody's going to watch this unless they're smart. So I controlled the diet. And I'm just going to give you some numbers now so we can go into the next 8 minutes and finish off this video, which I'm going to do in a second. Let me just shut it off right now. Okay, we are on the third segment of 8 minutes. So I went in there and I lost the weight. I lost weight, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. I went in for my 6-month test. And what they did, because of COVID, instead of having me go in there for the actual physical exam, they just did the blood test. And I was a nervous wreck. I was crying for days, waiting for the results. They blocked the results. They didn't release the results because they wanted to talk to me on the phone before they posted the results on their website. So I didn't know what the results were. I was crying. I seriously thought, my life is over. I'm going to be going in for chemo. I'm in big trouble. Doctor calls me up and he says, how you been? And I said, I'll tell you, I was crying all last night. I've been a nervous wreck. This has been rough for me. And he said, well, I've got some good news for you. Your number's down. And he told me what it was. And I said, is that good? And he said, that is your sweet spot. So, and which is interesting because there is a minimum they want your number to be at, and when it's over that, they're not happy. But there is also a sweet spot where they look at your health, they look at your age, and they say, and they look at your past record, and you can be under or over, but they look at that number and they say, this is a sweet spot, this is where you should be, this is what your body likes. And even if it's over, if that's the sweet spot, they consider you're okay, things are doing okay, and we'll monitor in 6 months and see what's going on. So he told me that. He said, you don't have anything to worry about, and your numbers look good. And then I told him, I said, I just want to tell you something. I said, I wasn't going to tell you, but I'm going to tell you right now. I said, when I was there for the appointment, and you wanted to do the biopsy, and I said, I'm not going to do the biopsy. And then I asked you, what do I need to do? And you told me, go to vegan. And I told you, I don't eat that stuff, and you says, well, you've got a lot of problems you have to deal with. I said, as far as when you said that, I said, I thought that was so rude that you would say that to me after what I had found out about the numbers. I was just really upset. And I said, and he was really quiet, and I said, and I went home, and I did my research, and I looked at a lot of info out there, and I said, you probably saved my life with telling me that. Because what happened since you saw me last, I said, I have lost 24 pounds since the last time you saw me. And when I said that, he went, holy S. And then he says, oh, I'm sorry. I said, it's okay. I said, I've lost 24 pounds since you saw me. I've lost 32 pounds since 2 months before that. I said, if you look, I had my primary do a full blood test. You will notice that my A1C1 has dropped substantially into a very good level. You will notice that my cholesterol level right now has dropped substantially to the point where it's where people who take cholesterol medication are. And I'm not taking cholesterol medication. So I said my cholesterol went down, my A1C1 went down, my, what else is there? Cholesterol, blood sugar, the blood lipids, I don't really understand it that much. I said, so the weight, you look at all of this, I said, you probably saved my life from a heart attack or a stroke down the line. And I want to thank you. And he said to me, I want to thank you. You have just made my day. Normally, he says, now I'm starting to remember the appointment that we had in that office. He said, normally when I have a patient and I tell them what they need to do, they walk out of there and they ignore me and they don't do what they need to do, and their health doesn't get better. He said, by doing what I did with the weight loss and the blood sugar and the cholesterol, he says, I probably extended my life substantially and saved myself from lots of health problems, and the PSA number went down. Did the PSA number go down because of the diet? We'll never know. Did the PSA diet go down because it was time? We'll never know. Did it go down because there was no G during that time? We will never know. What I can tell you is that was the only option available, was change the diet. And so that's the whole point of the video. If you go to the doctor and you have elevated, but it's not out of control, do some serious thinking before you do your biopsy. If you want to do the biopsy and not stress for 6 months, go ahead. But if they say go for 6 months, go for 6 months. Do your test again, see where you're at. If prostate cancer is either very mild or very aggressive. So if it's aggressive, your number is going to be way, way up there and you're in trouble. And if it's not way up there, then you can probably ride out for 6 months and see where it goes. So the vegan diet, and there are a lot of people out there that have, even when I tell them this, they say, I'm not giving up meat, I'm not giving up pizza, I'm not giving up enchiladas, I'm not giving that. I gave it all up overnight. And people say, how can you do that? Do you know how much dedication and how do you do it? Because it's your life you're dealing with. If eating a hamburger is more important to you than thinking about you might be having a chemo needle in you or something, if food is really that important to you, you're in big trouble. So vegan for me, I had a spoon of regular ice cream. I didn't miss it. When I have the vegan ice cream, it's no big deal. I haven't had a hamburger since. I really have not. I haven't had red meat since at all. I had a Subway sandwich once, and I went, okay, I don't really care about it that much. I don't miss meat. I don't miss. I've had a couple slices of pizza. I'm like 99% vegan, and when he told me plant-based, I am 99% vegan. I do not eat that stuff. I've had just like a few out of 6 months, 7 months. I've had maybe a few slices of pizza. No milk, staying away from the milk, haven't had any eggs at all, no eggs. It worked for me. I don't know what's going to happen with the PSA in the next test. What the doctor told me, he says, your numbers are really good. Your numbers went way, way down, and he said, you keep up the exercise. I didn't tell him I'm not doing the exercise, but I'm starting now. He said, you keep up that exercise, your numbers are going to go lower, it's going to clear out the blood a little bit, your numbers are going to go lower, and you're probably going to be in a lot better shape at the next test. And that means I'm going to be doing the bike rides again. I'm starting to do the weight, lifting some light weights, because I lost not a lot, but I lost, when you lose weight, you lose muscle mass, and so that was some of the weight loss too, was the muscle mass. And I'm working on building up the muscle mass now, and I'm going to get the cardio in there again. And so that's going to be the end of my video. How I possibly beat an elevated PSA level, and how I cleared out my arteries, not done yet, but how I cleared out my arteries and lowered my cholesterol level substantially, and lowered my A1C1 and my blood sugar. And life is good. After I found out, I walked in the house, I saw my mom, I cried my eyes out, she cried, and I said, I'm okay. And that's where we're at. So I do hope that watching this video, if anybody got this far, 24 minutes, that it's going to help you with your arteries, your health, if you go the vegan way and the plant-based way. And if you're dealing with PSA numbers, I do hope that you consider doing what I did. No guarantee it's going to drop your numbers. But like I said, the studies show that if you do have prostate cancer, if you do have it, and you eat eggs 3 times a week, odds are those eggs in that diet are you have a very high percentage of dying from advanced prostate cancer. Now, it's not guaranteed that the eggs cause that, but the studies show that people who had prostate cancer and ate eggs 3 times a week ended up dying of prostate cancer. Very high risk of that. Was it the eggs or was it their overall diet? Did they eat eggs, and with the eggs they ate meat and cheese and dairy? Who knows? But the eggs do show there's a problem. Change your diet, change your life. Hopefully this helped you. Normally I say do a thumbs up, a subscribe, a like, a share. I ask people to click on my affiliate links in my video description, or I ask them to donate to my PayPal if it helped them. In this case, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to ask you to do any of that stuff. You don't have to do any of it. You don't even think about it. I'm posting the video because I want it to help people out. I want to help people. I want them to have a healthier life, and it's worth it. I don't like beans that much. I still don't eat cooked vegetables. I don't eat that stuff. I can eat it in some stuff, but I cannot cook a pan of broccoli or spinach and eat it. I'll throw up. But my numbers are way down, and my goal now is to continue to drop them lower and have a long, extended, healthy, positive, happy life. Thanks for watching, people. Stay well.